All right, welcome to the Value Script, the podcast where we bring value every episode for the everyday person. I'm Lonnie Carmichael, and I'm joined by my lovely wife, Meredith Carmichael. And we'll be your hosts. Today, we're going to be responding to some questions our producer had about our church. And
oh yeah,
we encourage you to come along for the ride, because this is not structured, it's not scripted, and we're shooting from the hip here. So we'd like you to be involved in this. Leave us below in the comments your thoughts and feelings, and if you've had similar experiences and what your questions are, and so we can get to them. But with that in mind, let's dive in.
But what were you saying happened to, or what was the word that you used?
Disfellowshipped.
Yeah, so they've changed this since then in the official handbook. But 5 years ago, there was, I was disfellowshipped officially by the church, and for a decent reason.
Is the reason going to be discussed, or is that for just?
I don't know. I mean, it's already been discussed.
Well, we've
previously
talked about it.
But anyway, disfellowshipment as a definition is essentially you don't lose your church membership. Okay, so you officially remain a member of the church. You can still pay tithing if you want to, and you can still wear your temple garments.
You can still go. to church,
but you can't speak. You can't participate. You can't talk. You can't pray.
Jeez,
in church.
What?
Yeah.
So you can't at home. You can do whatever at home. You can pray. You can all of that. But like with our church, one thing that's different about. Go ahead.
Hold on, sorry, I'm just confused. So you can go to the church, but you can't participate?
Yeah, correct.
So what would make it just feels like you're putting a person in the corner?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And there's putting a scarlet letter around their neck, pretty much.
And that's what makes it so hard. It is, and people don't get it because like this is one thing that's so hard, I think, for a lot of members of the church to understand. It, like, there's a lot of good people, good like Christians that are trying to do their best to be close to God and be close to Jesus Christ and to act accordingly. And so when you come to church, it's like, they're nice. Like, we have an amazing ward that we go to. People are nice. It's not like, okay, we're not going to talk to Lonnie because he's been disfellowshipped. I think a lot of people don't even know. But at the same time, you feel the weight of that because you can't, like in classes, you can't answer questions. You can't pray. Like, so that's one thing that's different about our church too. Like in a lot of different Christian religions, like you have the pastor or the preacher that speaks the entire time and like gives a sermon or whatever.
Yes.
But in our church, like different people give talks in our sacrament meeting. That's the main meeting where everybody gets together and people are called on to pray. So it's not just the bishop that's doing all of that.
So is there a designated priest or bishop there?
There's a bishop.
Okay.
And he has two counselors that help kind of oversee things and keep everything going. Okay. And so they'll call on people and ask people to speak on Sundays or to pray or to hold different callings. Like the members do have different like jobs or assignments to do stuff. And so, but it does feel very isolating and like you're put in the corner. Yeah. And that's hard. Like sometimes it is very, very difficult to understand what that feels like until you've lived it. And I haven't lived that personally. I've just like been watching that, as Lonnie's gone through that. And it is incredibly hard. And it's not spoken about ever because there's a lot of shame and guilt and frustration. And a lot of times people think, well, okay, you made this choice, and so here's the consequences, and you need to deal with that in an appropriate way, right? Like continue to have faith, continue to pray, and all of those things. And that's great, but I don't think that people really understand how hard it is. And at the same time, when you're isolated like that, then like all of the foundation and the good feels hurtful and it feels hard, and it shouldn't.
How do they keep up with that? like knowing who went through what. Like, for example, like, is it just at a specific church that this happened?
Well, no. So like all of the,
I don't know if I'm questioning
all the different
that right.
wards, congregations, churches, you know, it all goes through Salt Lake. I mean, essentially through church headquarters and like on my membership record, like if I move to a different ward and or congregational area, right, our wards are essentially broken up into congregations, and those congregations are designed to be people that you live around, so that you know you're fellowshipping with your neighbors and people that you live nearby, and you're able to help and give aid and receive and all this stuff, whatever, service and love and all this stuff, right?
So all the members are
if we move, like say we buy a house in another city and we move to a new area, right?
Yeah.
And we have our records transferred, it goes through Salt Lake, right? But then our membership records will go from this ward to the next ward. And on my membership record, there'll be an asterisk that says, either call the previous bishop, but this member's under, official church discipline. And until that gets resolved, it'll stay on that record. And so anywhere I go, if my records are transferred, then they'll know, like, oh, hey, this member's had some special church discipline and is still going through it, or needs to, it's this, or needs to complete the process or whatever. And
is there a way to fix that, I guess?
Yeah, you have to go back through the process, essentially. So, originally I had what they called then as a disciplinary council. They've now changed that to councils of love to make it sound better.
and they have changed some details of the way that happens that is better.
It is, but still, I still go back through, meet with my, local priesthood leaders, the stake president and his counselors. And, basically, I don't want to misrepresent this, but their job essentially is to make sure that as far as the church is concerned, that this person has gone through all the physical things they need to do to repent of what they had done wrong. And to make sure that, especially since I was a bishop at the time, to help protect the name of the church and the reputation of the church, and to help promote the integrity of the organization as well. And so there's some formal proceedings that are taken care of that way, which I think is pretty reasonable to expect, especially, since I was a church leader when all that happened. And so, that's reasonable enough to expect. But the other side of it is, and hopefully the more important side, is they're supposed to also judge you spiritually. And I don't mean judge in a cruel way, but in a discerning way, to see have you grown spiritually through this? How are you? Like really the most important thing is, did the atonement of Jesus Christ take effect in this person's life? Has this person through this process gotten closer to Jesus Christ? Is this person more like Jesus Christ? Is this person better than they were before? And if not, why not? And try to figure out, okay, what does this person need to be able to progress in their walk with the Savior? And how do we get this person from where they are to, or how do we help them, get from where they are to where they need to be? And so they're trying to assess that as well, through the process. Like, is this person ready to come back and be counted as that guy's a Mormon and, represent the faith? And because essentially we all represent the church through the way we live. And so part of that disciplinary process really is well intended to make sure that the integrity of the church and the integrity of the gospel stays intact.
Yeah.
And it is for the well-being of the person. Just what I found to be the most difficult in all of that for me, I'm falling apart over here, is, when it all went down for me, it was I was already in a bad place. Personally, our marriage is in a bad place. I had, largely because of my actions and putting it at risk and in jeopardy. But, there were relationship wise, we weren't as close as we needed to have been. And, especially for the situations we were in. And so when the church came at me, it felt like with a hammer, it just added more insult to injury rather than like, I feel like what would have been better? Well, if they would have come and said, instead of saying, all right, Lonnie, for the next 5 years, for a minimum of 5 years, you don't get to do this, and this, right?
That's what it is? It's a 5-year thing?
For my deal, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. So that's coming up here soon,
right?
Or what?
January.
Well, January was 5 years.
Was our 5-year mark.
Oh, so you're...
It doesn't expire. Clear. Now you gotta get to go back through the process.
Now you gotta go back through the process to get back in.
Okay.
No. But I don't know. I feel like if the church would have come to me and said, "Hey, Lonnie, look, you messed up here. You can't do this, and you know that, and we know that. But we're gonna help you get through this. And your marriage is in a bad place now, and we're gonna help you get through that because we know how to do this because we've done it 1,000 times. We know how to help you. We know how to help your wife. We know how to help you get proper counseling. And we're going to wrap our arms around you and your family. And we're just going to lift you guys up so that you can't fall any further. I think that would have helped me a lot more than the disciplinary process and just being cut off.
It seems way more constructive to do it that way.
Well, apparently not. Apparently not.
Here's what's hard.
And it's not bad. It's not intended to be bad because those leaders themselves a lot of times don't have the perspective of, these people need marriage counseling. But, or this is, these are the counselors that would work for this situation. And they don't have that Rolodex because that's not the focus. The focus isn't on things like that. The focus is on what things can we do? Well, we're the church. We can pray. We can have faith. And those things are all great, but sometimes you don't know what to pray for. And sometimes you don't know what answers to look for. And sometimes you don't have the information you need to be able to work through the problem. And you just keep focusing on the problem and it just keeps manifesting as the problem. And I don't know.
Just from the outside looking in, it's like, but if a person needs help and pray does help and things of that nature, it's like, why discipline them to where they can't partake in praying when praying could be what helps?
Right.
It just seems odd.
Sure. Praying publicly, right, in the church or giving a talk or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not able to do those things. I can do them on my own personally. Right?
Yeah.
And really that's the most important thing.
That is.
Right.
Yeah.
It just, for a long time, it just stung socially because, you're assuming, and this probably isn't even the case for the most part, but you're assuming when you walk in, everybody's got their eyes on you, you sit down, and then, as the sacrament gets passed around or communion, and other churches, they call it communion, but it's called partaking of the sacrament, and I'm not allowed to do that. So you're just assuming everybody's watching you not do that, and they're not.
Yeah.
Most time they don't know. Or
well, you said you have a really good community in your church. Like everyone was really good about it. I wonder if there's churches, maybe not so friendly.
Sure.
There are.
Yeah, definitely are.
There are certainly, because people aren't perfect. They're just not. And,
and there's members that say stupid things and there's members that do dumb things, but a lot of it's well intended,
Yeah.
But you just, for me, I assumed that like everybody was watching me not participate in every little step. Like, we do when somebody receives a calling, they ask for a sustaining vote. Basically, will you,
raise your hand
in
support of that person.
Well, and basically you're pledging your support of that person and their calling. Right.
What is this for?
It's like whenever you get a calling in church, like if you get called to be a Sunday school teacher.
Oh, okay.
They'll say, we've called Meredith to be a Sunday school teacher, of whatever.
And then it goes to
class.
a vote?
Well, they just say we'd ask, for those of you that can help support or what are they? I don't even remember the official lingo. I'm on the spot. I'm on the spot.
It's been 5 years.
But essentially they asked for a sustaining vote so that you would raise your hand and signify that you would help support and sustain this person in their calling,
Okay.
And so really it's good.
Now, when you say sustain,
but I'm not allowed to participate in that sustaining vote either.
Okay.
So that's one of the things where I'm just assuming everybody around me is like, oh yeah, hey, look, Lonnie can't raise his hand. So then in my mind, I'm thinking that they're thinking, oh, what did he do wrong?
What does he do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is he, what did he do to get to,
Well, that just sounds like it just would give you anxiety.
It did.
Yeah.
Tremendous anxiety. And I realized most of the time people really just, they weren't, they didn't think that way and they weren't thinking of me that way.
Yeah.
But from me on the inside, being
when
anxious
it comes
as
from
heck,
me personally, it's going to feel like that.
Yeah, it was really tough.
Yeah. It's like walking into a room with a red nose.
Yeah. It felt like it.
Yeah.
And again, the members didn't make me feel like that. I made me feel like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally understandable though.
But
I think it's good for people that haven't experienced that or have somebody that they're close to that have experienced that. It is impossible to know what that feels like. Mm-hmm. It really is. I did not have the perspective that I do until we lived it. And I would, have those, I don't know, judgments, I guess, of well, I heard something happened with this person and now they're not coming to church. That's so sad. I wonder why they're not here. And it's so sad that their life has taken this new direction. And it is sad. But what I also didn't realize was how painful it is for people. It is not just that I'm going to make some bad choices and decide not to participate in church anymore. It is a process and it is a hard process. And when you have the foundation of the gospel of Jesus Christ is true. It is. I know that. And so when you're then faced with things that are brought about by the church that are difficult and hard, that is, it's just that. It's difficult and it's hard to live it and to go through it. But a lot of people, it is so hard that they choose to walk away. And to be totally honest, we understand that. We understand what that feels like and that it would be easier just to go in a different direction, because stepping foot in that building every week, we would come home from church and there were days when I was just you got to just stay home. It's too hard. It is too hard. And then the rest of the day is wrecked. And
in the beginning, it was really hard for me to go back.
It was so hard.
As she was talking about, we'd go to church and I'd be so grouchy that I was just hell for the next 3 days. And she's like, you know what, just don't go.
Yeah.
Just don't go. It's not worth it. You bite everybody's heads off, for the next 3 days and you're just miserable. And I was just hurt, hurting inside and hurt.
But that's why I think this is why I wanted to do an episode like this, because I know that there's somebody that is going to be in your shoes now and has the next 5 years to deal with, but doesn't know how to. And maybe this video reaches him or her.
But that's okay. It really is okay to know this is hard. It is freaking hard. But if you can just hold on to.
So here's the question that needs to be answered. You've said this is hard a lot, and it has been really hard. I guess there's two questions. One, why are we still going? Right? And two, if it's so hard, why go back? All right, we hope you've enjoyed listening to the insights of the Carmichael family and some of the cultural customs that we have because we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And those are not necessarily run-of-the-mill common things. So we want to make sure that we get your questions and comments and thoughts of what you thought of this episode. And if you have questions about it and what we can answer as far as what those questions might be, make sure you leave those down in the comments below. Don't forget to clickety-click like, share, and subscribe. Turn on that ring notification bell on YouTube so you can make sure and get our episodes as they drop in hot. And that brings us to, we'll see you next time on another episode of The Value Script.